My name is Will Ramos, and these are my tattoos. Do I just get right into it? Is that how we're doing this? Okay. And these are my tattoos. As many of you guys know, I am Puerto Rican. And if you know anything about Hispanic parents, is that they absolutely hate metal music, hate tattoos, hate piercings. But growing up, I always wanted to have tattoos, especially because I couldn't have it, especially because I grew up in the metal scene. And my mom was like, no, there's no way you're gonna get one. My first tattoo was my Ramos family crest. Now I'm like 17 3/4. I'm like, all right, I'm like a couple more months, I'm gonna be 18. So I go to the guy, I'm like, hey man, Fair Lawn, New Jersey, Screaming Ink. Classic, dude. If you just turned 18, that's the place where you go to get a poorly done tattoo. What tattoo do I regret the most? Where do I start? It was one time, I just turned 19 years old. It was Friday the 13th, classic, I know. And I get to the place, the guy's like, these are all the tattoo ideas that we got for Friday the 13th. They were all huge. And I was just like, man, I just got this tattooed, I got my back tattooed, I'm gonna be so tatted up. Slap that shit on there, boom. And he puts the thing on, he tattoos it exactly the way it was. It was actually a Hellboy reference from the artist who made Hellboy. I didn't really like comic books like that. I liked manga, but I didn't like comic books. So I was like, I'm already starting off completely in left field, which is fine. I realized as soon as I walked out of the tattoo place, and when I tell you as soon, I literally opened the door, turned left to start walking toward my car, and I could tell in that moment, I was like, what have I done? Let's see. The longest session that I've ever actually sat through was on my leg. It's covered up right now, but it is basically a chupacabra, and it is a bunch of rats wrapped up at the tail. I was like, this is sick. It's a realistic tattoo. It's done by my boy Mike Hollows out of Staten Island. He is so good. I'm gonna tell you right now, the leg hurt so much. Not as bad as my elbow, but I remember it hurt so much. Like just going back here behind the leg, I was like, oh. The upper thigh, I can't even imagine what it's like to get done the inside of the thigh. Right now, I only got the outside, but that one I think I sat through maybe 12, 14 hours over the course of 2 days, which is more than I've ever sat for anything. Ooh, my most painful tattoo, which is, honestly, a lot of people will say that this one's not bad at all. It was my elbow. When I first get this elbow right here, I wanted to black out the tip of my elbow. I wanted this whole thing to be black as hell. Wanted to get a nice flower just to start it out, black the elbow out. That took so long to black it out. I remember laying there just like this, holding my elbow out, and he was just like, all right, bend your elbow more. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? I just imagine him just like, I'm bending it and there's just more space for him to just keep going over it. I'm like, and he would just go over it and then over it and over it and over it. And I remember he looked at me and he was just like, I don't know what's going on. The ink ain't staying in there. We're just gonna have to keep doing it. And I was there, I remember just being like, at a certain point when you're in so much pain, the rest of your body just feels it. I remember he was just doing it and I was just like, ah, ah, ah. Ooh, my parents, specifically my mom, classic mom, but I love you, Mom. You know I love you. But the one that she probably hates the most is either the chupacabra on my leg or I have this goblin guy on my right side of my leg. It is basically like a crazy goblin, and then he's holding a skull and he's just like this. And he's basically eating ramen noodles out of the skull. And the idea of that was supposed to be that I am the goblin. I told him, dude, I was like, honestly, what if we just did something like this? And he was like, all right, it's cool, let's do it. So if you look at the goblin, you'll actually see there's hair, like curly hair. It has big plugs. So it's me. And if you know also anything about me, you know I love ramen. I love it so much. When I'm on tour, that is pretty much all I eat. Like 60% of the time is ramen. Believe it or not, most people actually ask about my neck or my head tattoo. The neck that one just came easy. I was like, I just want more Puerto Rican stuff. I want more, you know, hibiscus flower is literally the flower of Puerto Rico. I only got a tattoo like this, first of all, because now I'm finally making it. Lorna Shore's doing good. I'm like, thank God, I always wanted to get these tattoos, but how am I gonna be able to put myself all into, you know, one place? If I start going towards that, there's no, maybe Lorna Shore doesn't work out, and then I gotta go work at like Amazon, and they won't want me like this. They look at me and say, oh my God, what is he doing? He probably shoots people or something, I don't know. So as soon as everything started working out with Lorna, I was like, this is it, baby. This is the time. Let's tattoo the side of my head. I hit up my friend Peter Morgan. He is so good at filigree. Flew down. We did the whole thing in New York. It was one session. And honestly, it was probably the least painful tattoo I've ever had. I would 100% do the rest of my head if I could. I mean, one day, mark my words, one day. So my most meaningful tattoo, I've been working on it a little bit. I still have a little bit more work to do on it, but it's actually my back. It is a giant, basically Puerto Rican style mural. And the idea of it is, once upon a time, the Tainos used to believe that, the Tainos were the people that lived in Puerto Rico, the natives. They used to believe that there was two gods, and there was like a mother god. The mother god created these two gods, their two sons, and basically they fought over the island. And that's why like there would be hurricanes, that's why, you know, natural disasters and all that stuff. And basically the result of what was happening in Puerto Rico was the result of these two gods fighting. And so I was like, you know, this would be really sick to try and do like this Aztec style Puerto Rican god-like thing where it almost looks like a monument to the gods. So I was like, let's do that. I got one on one side, I got the other god on the other side, and I got the mother god, which is like directly in the center. It's been taking a long time, as you can see. We still got to do some details here and there. Originally, I was going to color it because I'm a big color guy. All my tattoos were supposed to be colored, but now look at me. One of the craziest stories that I have about a tattoo that I got was this bird right here. It is supposed to be a red hawk, but because it's black and white, it is a black and white hawk, which is great. Once upon a time, I used to work with the film crew. I used to be a PA for many years until I eventually stopped PAing and started office PAing. But when I was a PA, one of the times is we were traveling around, we were shooting documentaries. We went to Arizona, we went to Michigan. It was literally just one trip where we're just going from place to place, just interviewing people, talking about the different problems and stuff that are going on in our country, whether we're aware of it or not. But basically, once upon a time, when America was first created, you know, we had a bunch of Native Americans here, and then we had all the European people who just came in and did some really stuff, pushed them all out. As Americans, you like to believe that these problems are over. You're like, oh, that's a thing of the past. That's over now, you know, but it's actually terrible. Like, it still affects people to this day, and it's just because, you know, a lot of people live in a different part of the country. They have no idea this stuff is going on, but, you know, there's still Native Americans who are just living out there, and a lot of them are trying or are being forced to live back into the American, you know, society, because at this point, America is this whole giant piece of land, and everybody is expected to follow the same rules and stuff. The only problem is, like, if you're so used to one way of life, you know, you try and force yourself and assimilate back into American life, and it's totally against everything that you believe in. And it's very unfortunate, but like a lot of Native Americans are drinking their hearts out and becoming alcoholics, having to go to rehab centers. And this is one of the things that we were actually going to interview. We went down to Arizona to talk to people and talk to the different tribes. But one of the places that we were at was a rehabilitation center. And I was just trying my best to just talk to the people there, make them feel good, you know, whatever I can. I mean, it's part of my job. Obviously, I'm a PA, but it's also just part of being a human, where you're just like, I want these people to feel good. And this lady, at the very end of it all, she's like a shaman lady. She came over to me and she gave me this feather, and she was like, this is a feather of a red hawk. I'm basically blessing you right now from the Native Americans. And she did like this little ritual thing. She gave it to me, and I still have that feather to this day. It's actually in my room right now. In that moment, I was like, I was accepted by nature, by these people. And that for me was such a good moment. I was like, I want to get that tattooed on me. And I did. My favorite tattoo that I have right now is probably this dark calligraphy that I have going on over here. I eventually want to have it continue around my back. I remember there was this one guy, his name is Mayonnaise. If you know dark calligraphy or any kind of calligraphy tattoos, he is the man, but he also lives in Australia, which is very hard to get to. I went to my boy in Colorado. I said, hey man, do the whole thing. Make it look nice. Doesn't even have to say anything. And sure enough, it don't. Mission accomplished. My latest tattoo is actually something that my boy Felix from Germany Love that guy to death. He's working on it still. As you can see, I'm not done with this, but he's basically doing a nice... It's a style, I think it's called like dark calligraphy. I love calligraphy, always have. I think it's really sick. Especially when you're really good at it, I'm like, please, do what you can. So he started doing this. That was incredibly painful. I didn't realize how painful the tummy is. Oh, actually, that leads me to the previous question that you actually asked. You're like, yo, what is the most painful tattoo that you got? I got no nipples. I got 0 nipples. They're gone. Look at these things. That hurted really bad. Like, remember when I first got this thing? This koi fish disaster. That was my like 3rd tattoo, you know? I'm covering it up, thank God. But you know, I got this koi fish tattoo, and I remember he was getting real close. He wasn't there, but he was getting close. There were certain parts when any of you guys out there who has anything on your chest or you got your nipples done or whatever the hell, you know that feeling when they start to get closer and it's like you're seeing God. There's a moment where you're like, and it just feels like you're just seeing white. You literally can't see anything because you're in so much pain the closer that they're getting to the nip. And then I look down, he's not even on the nip. That was when I was like, oh my God, I'm never doing this ever again. Needless to say, I came back, and not only did I do it, I took him out. I took him out completely because I was tired. You know, I'm a skinny guy. I grew up, people go, oh, skinny guy. I'm like, yeah, no shit. And they're like, oh, I got fucking lil nippies. And I'm like, oh my God, I would rather have lil nippies than massive areolas. You know what I'm saying? And I'm tired of dealing with these questions. Everybody, I'm blacking them out. Boom. So I blacked him out. I was like, Felix, while you're doing this, it's time to say goodbye to the nippies, baby. And he said, no problem. 2 sessions of absolutely the worst pain I've ever been in, ever. Yeah, elbow is bad, but you know, nothing is worse than going right on the nip. That is just, ooh, that's dying and coming back to life. I'm Will Ramos. Those are my tattoos. I know you guys have been asking. I know there's been a lot of interviews that we've had, and I haven't really answered any of those questions before, so I hope I got to answer all the ones that you were looking for. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Like, comment, subscribe, all the classic stuff, and we'll see you in the next one. Sorry, I hit myself in the nuts with my damn belt.